blow this up.
Look alive, Bomb Squad. We're back for another installment of Let's Blow This Up. I'm your host, Jason Sircone, and today we're taking a look at the little things, my friends. That's right. I'm going to share 4 subtle things that will make you stand out as an undeniable force with your podcast. And the reason why I want to take some time to look at the little things today is because there's so much value packed into each of these initiatives that I'm going to share with you. They all show your guest or whoever you're collaborating with that you're taking a little extra time to build a relationship and take things to the next level. And if you're using podcasting for your business, that's what it's all about. You have an opportunity to network on a very high level and have a very powerful conversation with someone that's like-minded and has a lot of insight on your industry. These are the people that you want in your circle. But if you just treat them as someone that's coming on your show and you're not doing the due diligence that's required to make them stand out and to ultimately build something that could go beyond the podcast, then more than likely it won't. And it will just be a one-time transaction where they come to your show, they do an interview, they have the conversation, and then they bolt. You want to get all the meat off the bone when you're collaborating with like-minded professionals in your space to create content for your show. And I feel within these little small things that you can do is value personified. It really makes you stand out because a lot of people are leaning into this platform. They're trying to make podcasting a key component of their marketing. And in doing that, they're probably having some great conversations, but they may not be getting all the meat off the bone. They may not be treating this platform with the respect that it deserves in regards to networking and relationship building. If you jump back in the archives of season 3, you'll find some episodes that I've done that talk about the power of networking when it comes to podcasting. You got to know how to make yourself stand out. And to me, because so many people are doing this, it's always going to be the little things. Think about conversations that you have with people. When you take the time to get to know somebody on a higher level, and even it just be someone that you come across in passing, maybe it's a cashier at the grocery store, and you take time to say hello and ask how their day is, that stands out. That's something that people will remember. So let's bring that into the podcasting space, and let me share with you 4 subtle things that you can do that will make you stand out and make you a force in this space. Maybe you're doing some of these already. If you're not, please feel free to work them into your practices as soon as you get done listening. Number 1, know the person that you're collaborating with's last name. Now, I say that as a guy who has a name that is hard to pronounce, and I've heard it every possible way throughout my lifetime. It's pronounced Sircone, but I've heard Kirkone, Sircone, Sircone, Kirkone, Circ1. Across the board, I've heard it all. And I've collaborated with podcasters who have said it wrong. And it's usually, it's funny because sometimes they'll say, oh, by the way, how do you say your last name? Or they get going on the intro and they get right to where they have the same name and they go, shit, I forgot to ask you, how do you say your last name? I think it stands out. It's very subtle, but it stands out if you get to know that person's last name, if it's something that's hard to pronounce. There are probably many ways that you can find their name pronounced in a video or a podcast appearance that they've made, or if they have their own show, more than likely they're saying their name at some point. Like when I start my show, I always introduce myself. You can learn that name and take it to the podcast with you. So when you get to that recording session, you know their name. I've done this with many of my guests. Sometimes I'll double check, but even in that double check, sometimes their names are so hard to say. When I say their name, they'll say, wow, yeah, that's how you say it. That's great. It shows that you care. It shows that you are focused on more than just creating good content with them. You want to take things beyond just creating content and perhaps take things to the next level in regards to building that business relationship, which leads into my second subtle point that you can do that will make you stand out. Offer another call after the podcast is recorded. I love this. This to me is what podcasting is all about. I know I referenced it in my networking episodes in season 3. So if you jump back in the archives and check those out, you'll be able to hear this message again. If you're using podcasting for networking, you are doing it right, because this is the ultimate platform for digital connection. Because you're not just connecting in those Zoom environments. Like if you've been in any virtual networking environment since COVID, a lot of times it's just everybody gets thrown in a room for a few minutes and you have to do some speed networking and exchange names. And maybe you'll come across somebody that you can have like-minded opinions with and take things to another level. But it's usually in fast forward mode. When you're making a podcast, that's intimate time that you're spending conversing about subjects that you're passionate about. Those conversations could be the foundation on which a number of great things happen. But if you don't ask the question, you'll never know. I've been a guest on many podcasts. I've had many people on my podcast. I've tried in pretty much every case in one way, shape, or form to take things to the next level by saying, listen, this was great. I liked the opportunity to connect with you and learn from you. I hope you felt the same. Why don't we get on a call without the pressure of building a podcast, and we can plot world domination with one another? And ultimately, that's just the next step. And not everybody's going to say yes. Some people will never respond to that message. Or if you do say it on the call, they might be like, let me check my schedule and we'll see what happens. But there are going to be the people that feel that connection and know that there was some chemistry from that podcast recording that you made. Now, who knows? Maybe you're the perfect partner for them. Maybe the service that you offer is exactly what they need. Maybe what they have is exactly what you need. Maybe they have 5 people that are always asking about what you offer. They just don't know who to turn to. Now they have a resource. There's so much to gain there. But if you don't ask the question and you don't try to take it beyond the podcast, you miss out on that. So keep that in mind. Next time you're bringing somebody onto your show or you're looking to be a guest on another show, don't think about it just being a podcast recording. Think about what comes next. If you can take that to the next level and potentially get another meeting set up, the sky is the limit from there. Who knows what doors may open to you, but if you don't ask that question, you're never going to find out. Third thing that you can do to stand out, don't read a lengthy bio. Just jump right into your conversation. Now, I've heard podcasts do this where they just jump right into the conversation. That's what I try to do with my guests. The second we turn the mics on, it's a quick intro and we're rolling, baby. We are into that conversation because I know that's what you showed up for. You came because you saw that we're talking about this subject that you're also passionate about, or it's also something you want to learn about. I want to get you to that conversation. I feel like a lot of podcasters feel like they need to validate why they're bringing a guest on the show. And that's why they have that lengthy bio read at the beginning. If you're sitting there and you're reading it word for word and they're just staring at the screen while you're doing it, it's like, okay. Pretty much all people that come to that podcast, they're not coming to the podcast for that reason. So not only are you going to stand out with your collaborator, but you're also going to stand out with your listeners by skipping that bio and jumping right into the conversation. Now, bits and pieces of that bio are going to be spread out throughout your conversation. This is what I've discovered since switching to this approach. What I've noticed is that when we're talking about various aspects of the subject at hand, they're able to share points of reference from their story. And from that, listeners get the opportunity to learn about that person and learn about that guest. That way, they know they've got the right person, and it's all about the conversation versus having to spend 5 or 10 minutes on the front end hearing this bio read and then opening up the floor to tell us about yourself. You know damn well you don't click on podcasts because you want to know everything about that person and hear about their life story from start to finish. You're trusting the host of that show to bring on quality guests that can contribute valuable insight that helps you grow. It helps you get an answer. When you ask, what's in it for me? The hosts that are bringing on good guests and having great conversations that lead to potential solutions for you, those are the podcasts that you're more than likely coming back to again and again and again, right? So think of it on that level. You don't have to read a long bio. Let your listeners find out about that guest throughout the show. If you're flipping the script and you're being a guest, you don't need to provide this long worded bio to your host that's going to probably read all of it on the air if they're not thinking on this level. So if you do give them something, give them 1 to 2 sentences, something that can be quick and something that will get to the conversation faster. That's going to allow you to help them out because you know your value is in your storytelling. It's in everything that you're bringing to the table from a knowledge perspective. The faster you can get to that, the faster you can get those listeners engaged, captivated, and keep their asses in the seat. So think about that. For standing out, you want to ditch the long bios and get right into the conversation. And the fourth thing I'm going to share, this is me cheating a little bit. If you go back to my conversation with Charlie Krebs, it was a great talk from start to finish. I mentioned at the top of that show that we were going to get a little meta because we were having a great conversation about having great conversations. And to me, that's what it's all about. In podcasting, the best content is born from great conversation. How does great conversation take place? You listening to your guest. Instead of bringing 15 to 20 questions to your podcast and having a mindset that you have to get through those questions in order for the show to be successful, cut that number in half. Now, I don't know how many questions you prepare, but I will say this from my own experience. When I was doing my show Evolution of Brand, I would do anywhere from 15 to 18 questions in that range. And as I got into that show and into that conversation, I realized I was asking maybe half of those questions. So I said, all right, I'm going to really dial this back. And when I looked at it, I said, you know what? I'm going to put 6 questions in front of me and see what happens. What happened was I was so focused on letting the conversation unfold organically, those 6 questions hardly got touched. Maybe I'd ask 2 or 3 of them. That's why I made the decision when I put Let's Blow This Up together that I knew I was going to do this whole thing unscripted. I felt that I had gained enough knowledge on the subject matter that I wanted to talk about that I'd be able to carry myself without a script. But when I was having conversations, I knew where I wanted my focus to be. And that was listening to the person on the other side of the microphone. That way I could learn from them and I didn't have to think about the next question I was going to ask. I could build whatever I was going to say next off of what they said. That feels more natural. That's more like the conversations that you're accustomed to having on a daily basis, right? Whether it's with your loved ones, with your colleagues, with your clients. If you're focused on having good conversations, good things are born from that. And that should easily translate to podcasting. Now, I can say from the email that I got from Charlie after our live stream that said that was effing awesome, I knew that we did a great job having a great conversation. We achieved the mission that we had both set out for because he had sent me an email earlier in the day asking what kind of questions I was going to ask him. And my response was, I don't know. We're going to let this flow. I knew what I wanted to talk to Charlie about, and I prepared in that nature. Now, I want to put a small caveat on this. Unscripted does not mean unprepared. You can't go into your podcast interviews with no preparation whatsoever. Now, in the very beginning stages, as you're getting used to this, have a few questions in front of you just in case you run out of things to talk about and you want to reference something. But as you get more comfortable in this type of environment, you can find yourself going in unscripted just like I did, or just like I do. But remember, I've been doing this for over a decade. So I've put a lot of time and practice into learning this skill. But I will say that's how you can get yourself prepared for that type of thing, to focus more on the organic conversation, is to listen to what your guest is saying, think about what you want to say next or how you can have a counterpoint to what they have to say, or let me sum. I'm going to cut myself off. Let things flow naturally and let them unfold organically. Have a couple questions in front of you. Like I said, good to fall back on. But if you focus on the conversation that you're having, not only is that going to lead to better content that people get engaged with, you are going to have more fun creating that content. Believe me, having those organic conversations, that's what lights me up. If you're doing a podcast, there should be some element of that in you. You should be excited to have those conversations because it's an opportunity to connect with someone that's like-minded and shares similar thoughts, maybe the same thoughts as you. I can't think of anything better than sitting around with my friends and rapping about a subject I'm passionate about. So it makes the organic conversation a much easier way to let things flow, but it's a lot of fun too. So those 4 small tips are just the tip of the iceberg. I would love to hear from you. If you've got any subtle things that you've done with your podcasting or with your content creation as a whole that makes you stand out, please send it my way. I will make sure that I feature it on a future episode because I'd love hearing about what other podcasters are doing to stand out. Because we're in a world where it feels like maybe our medium is saturated, but I guarantee you it is absolutely not. Not even friggin' close. There's so much room for growth. There's so much room to captivate the right people to come in and listen to your show. But there are always going to be things that we can do to stand out a little bit more. These are 4 things that I've been practicing. I'd love to hear what you've got on the table and what's helping you stand out. Please apply these tips to your approach and see what happens. That's going to do it for today's installment of Let's Blow This Up. We are more than halfway through season 3. I hope you've been having a great time because I know I have. Please feel free to jump back in the archives, check out some of the past episodes that you may have missed, and make sure you are following and you're subscribed on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and your favorite podcast app so you hear all the new episodes that come out as season 3 rolls on. Until our paths cross again on the next episode of Let's Blow This Up, my name is Jason Sircone, reminding you to stay explosive.